Hey everybody, this is Nir Bashan. I'm so happy to have my very, very good friend Billy Taylor here. Hi Billy, how are you?
Good. I'm doing well. I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. Billy is one of the most celebrated authors at McGraw-Hill. He wrote a book called The Winning Link, a proven process to define, align, and execute strategy at every level. That is where I met Billy. And I mean, this book, Billy, has transformed people's lives. You're hearing from people all over the world, right? Like, oh my
Absolutely.
gosh, I read this book. What are some of the reactions been?
Well, it's really been amazing because it's practical. So it's not theory. It's what someone put in a book around Hoshin Connery and those type of things. It's the real application. And what I keep getting back from companies is, right, really, most people don't fail because of bad strategies. They fail because they don't know how to execute. So the book actually shows you how to execute strategy, not just build it and deploy it.
Yeah, I think everybody loves to kind of be strategic, right? Hey,
Yes,
I've got a great strategy as to
absolutely.
where we should go and what we should do. And
Yes,
then, they have meetings and like endless Excels and endless
yes,
PowerPoint decks, all right? And the,
yes.
the vision is so solid. It's
That's
so
right.
good,
That's
right?
it.
But how do we translate that into action?
Yeah, it has to be embedded into your daily management system. So often, and you said it brilliantly, right? You think you and I talked beforehand. Most people put their strategy in a PowerPoint, then they put it on a nice picture on the wall, right? And then it's displayed. But what I tell people is you can't manage a secret. So if your strategy is in a PowerPoint, it's in some file, that means it's a secret. You know it at the executive level, but when the people start to execute, they don't know. So what we talk about is there's two components to changing and managing any type of business. There's the daily management system and there's the daily operating system. The strategy has to be embedded in both. Normally it's just embedded in the management system. It's not embedded in the operating system.
Billy, I love it, man. You got also a new software out, right? Like that
Yes.
helps people with what you're talking about right now, right? That sort of
Mhm.
manage those two things. Will you tell us about that, man? What's going on with that?
So it's called Linked XL OS, the operating system. So what we it's really not a software we sell. It's an execution engine.
Okay.
So basically, it's like an MRI to your business. It actually builds that strategy. You can see it deployed, but more importantly, you can see your performance gaps, the trends. But here's the difference of it. Like we just talked about, most people have all these different systems, SAP, Oracle, Power BI. They've got all these different systems. We don't say stop using those systems. We give you the platform to integrate them all so you only go to one place and they're all connected, but the problem solving. So basically the performance and problem solving is embedded as well as the strategy. So when you have your weekly meeting, when you're in the meeting and it's lasting 3 hours, and we call it 6 clicks. You can look and you know where your issue is, but people can't distract you. Oh, there's a squirrel, right? And everybody looks for the squirrel. It's a distraction. This keeps you focused. And so, what normally we go in, we help with hey, here's the strategy deployment, and we give you the management software. So we say, hey, here's the deal. Let's do this compliance. Just connect with us to come back and let us tell you, is your system working? Here is your gaps. Instead of now we have some that says, hey Billy, we just want to pay for seats on the bus. And I'm like, okay, but are you committed to your seats in the bus? Now, the model for that is we train the trainer. Here's what we do. You own it. We don't want to own it. And so that's what the software is. It's an execution engine. And we have had, and I'm not exaggerating, 98% success rate at moving the needle.
Wow, that's amazing. That's
Yeah.
incredible.
And what we say is don't talk to us in our sales pitch. Why don't you call the clients that we've worked with? And we don't even want to be on the phone with you.
Well, Billy, I got a question, right? Like it takes one to know one. And
Yes.
there's so many people in this space, and they're really great people, right? They're
Hmm.
very, very advanced developers, and they love
Hmm.
the code, and it works beautifully. But they haven't spent a day in our shoes. So what is that
Absolutely.
like, and how is that a good differentiator?
So again, that capability to understand environments operate that you're implementing in. See, when you just focus on the tool and you don't understand the practicality of the environment, when tools lead, failure follows. It's gonna happen. And so when we go in, we don't even go in. I don't go into a company, nerd, and I don't go in and say, "Hey, here's why this tool is good for you." We do what's called an execution assessment. We let your team take it, and then we show you that based on these five things, and says, "Here's what you said is why you have a gap. Here's what you said, and this is your consensus." And then what we do is walk your operating floor and talk to your leaders, and we ask the four critical questions around strategy, winning. How do you know if you're winning? And normally we get the old Scooby Doo answer, the old commercial. Say, how's it going? I don't know, right? We get that type of answer. So what we do is when we get back in the conference room, the conversation isn't a sales pitch. It's a gap closing opportunity. And that's because I've lived it for 30 years. Let me tell you, Nir, I failed at it more than I succeeded at it.
Ha. Yeah, that's something we don't talk about enough.
I failed at it. I recently was on a TV show yesterday, and the person was asking me about some of the great advice and where did I get it from? Where did I get the advice from? And I said clearly from failures. I didn't get them from successes. That's where I got them from,
Right.
and
That's
I
why they're
understood.
genuine.
Absolutely. And I was humble enough to know that, hey, when I went into a plant and I look at your book, we're going to talk about the solution mindset and some of the things you talk about. That's right. Right. You talk about that. So when I went into the plant, I would ask the question, why would and why should they follow me?
Hmm.
Because I'd failed at it. And when I approached my mother and says, I can't get the buy-ins,
Hmm.
mom, they're not listening to me. All right, I'm 26, 27, and she paused and says to me, why would and why should they follow you? Great question.
Great questions.
Okay. And then she would say to me, in the absence of ownership comes blame. So when I started building operating systems, I built all my systems around ownership. Because see, people, strategy plus execution equals results. But the plus is strategy plus who owns what in the strategy. So you have to get that key component right. And I'm going to tell you, you increase your chances of success by 80%. So when I'm in meeting, I don't want to talk about what I own, nerd. I want to talk about what you own.
Yeah. Hey, Billy, I think people are hungry at work to take ownership for a
Mhm.
particular part of the business. I think it's
Absolutely.
empowering. I think it's a wonderful thing. I think people can dive into that realm and that sandbox and like hit the go button, right? Because they're
Absolutely.
finally excited that they have something that they can own. Has
Yes.
that experience with the different companies that you're working with been well received?
100% of the time. 100% of the time. And,
Incredible.
and and people say, Billy, you're over exaggerating. We were born to win. Our mindset is centered on winning or losing, or right, success or failure. And let me give some examples so people don't think I'm just talking theory and you and I are just, trying to impress an audience. When you go to a football game, a basketball game, a soccer game, a tennis match, the Olympics, what do people want to know? The score. It comes down to winning and losing.
That's
That's
right.
it. When you get in your car, the first thing you do is look at the gas gauge. Why? You want to know what are your chances of winning the trip, getting the worker back. You want to know what it takes to win or lose. Now, I'm going to tell you, after the trophy hits the mantle, what stays with you is that feeling of being successful. That's the gratitude. That's why we cut down the net. That's why we do those things. At work, those people want to know. They're right. They're industrial athletes. And so give them the chance to win. But when I go into companies, one of the first things I look for is what's the scoreboard
Yeah.
at their machine, in their department. What's the scoreboard?
Yeah.
And if you don't know the scoreboard, you're deliberately, unconsciously deflating your workforce.
Yeah, 100%. You know, Billy, I also do a lot of work with companies just like you, and
Yeah.
I come in at a very unique time where some of the scoreboard material's pretty good, right?
Yes.
We know this amount of product is leaving the warehouse at this time, roughly going to these places. We're pretty good with that. But then they've maxed that stuff out and they need somebody to help them now with creative, innovative tools that help make sense of those metrics. They sort of add some humanity to the metrics and make them I don't know, measurable results in of themselves. You know, what do you do when that kind of comes up, when the scoreboard is there, the metrics are there, but still people aren't excited about the work?
I love it. Perfectly did. They're going to think we scripted this. I'm not kidding. I'm telling you. All right. So what we do is we walk in and look at the KPIs, not just the KP. We look at the KPAs, not just the KPIs. So let me break that down. When I look at scoreboards, I often see the red, greens, KPIs, the key performance indicators. But let me tell you, that's equivalent to standing on a scale saying you want to lose weight. Now, what's more important? The KPAs are the actions you have to deliver, right? I got to walk 2 miles a day. I've got to eat 2,000 calories. Those are the things that move the scale.
The doing activities.
Absolutely. That has to be a part of the scoreboard, not just the outcomes, the inputs. That's the change. That's the change that we're implementing, the KPA and the KPI. And let's go back to the ownership question. At the end of every one of those, the red green has to say, what's the issue and then what's the action? So you have to do both of them. You have to talk about the issue and the action. And so that's how we're driving change that's sustainable, because who's owning those actions? The person doing the work.
Right.
Who's owning
100%.
the solution?
100%.
Yeah.
And if they know that they're doing it, then they get excited, they get involved, their skin is on the line, right?
Absolutely.
Their pride and they're excited about it.
Absolutely. But you know what else? Let's talk about the flip side of that. Their value proposition is on the other side of that as well. You know what we want more than anything in life? Is to be valued. In our relationships,
Respected.
be valued, respected, right? I call it, right, the 4 basic human needs. The need to be heard, the need to be understood, the need to be valued, and the need to be free to be who I am. And if you can give that to any human being, they'll give you the best that they have to offer. They'll give you that. And so that's what I talk about. How do you give that to them? And it's embedded in your day to day. Because here's the deal, man. You know, I often ask about when you're talking about change, it's like cracking an egg. When the egg is cracked from the inside, life begins. But when the egg is cracked from the outside, life ends, right? We're eating that egg for breakfast. So if you're driving change in your company, you need to focus on ownership, cracking the egg from the inside. And that's the things that you have to own it. I walk into every organization. I says, if you think Billy Taylor's here to change your organization, you shouldn't sign this contract.
Yeah. You're honest with them up front.
Right up front. Right up front. I said, but because you have to be careful, I'll take your organization. They'll fall in love with Billy Taylor because Billy Taylor's #1 motto is, if you make people visible, they'll make you valuable.
Yeah.
So I say, hello. You get within 2 feet of me. Hey, look at when you and I first met. Man, we hit it off right away.
100%.
Right? When you email me, man, I'm honored. It's that, right? Trust, respect, but more important, value. And so that's what I focus on. What's the system? I say great organizations, great individuals do these things deliberately.
Yeah.
They define what winning is. They have clarity around the strategy, the standards. Because, often you talk what it takes a good leader, it starts with setting a standard and living to that standard. And a standard isn't what you write down.
Yeah.
It's not what you walk by. I mean, it's not what you write down and say, it's what you walk by. A standard is what you accept. And so after you get that deliberate clarity, deliberate ownership, that alignment, who owns what in that strategy, I was very clear about. And the last part is what you've been asking me about, is that engine, that touch point, that daily touch point that lets me know if I'm winning or losing and why I'm not. That's critical. Now, I do think there's two components of what we're talking about, the scoreboard, the virtual and the visual. You need both. The virtual, when you're on a shop floor, I believe it should be high touch, low tech, right? The operator needs to know if they're winning. They're the athlete playing the game. And if they can't look up and see how much time's on the clock, what period of the game we're in, it's hard for them to focus on winning. But from a leadership, an executive, a C-suite, I need access. That's high tech, low touch. So closest to the source is high touch, low tech. To the CEO, that's the difference.
Yeah, that's amazing. Billy, I just wrote an article for Psychology Today about how, and it went viral, got, hundreds of thousands of clicks and translated into different languages, about how clarity and getting rid of things to understand what is going on is sometimes way more important than having, a bunch of data sets that show you things like that. And you just kind of touched on a person on the floor who needs, this type of information, not that, and not that, and not these three things. And, every consultant in the world will come in and go, oh, well, they need 16 different systems and blah, 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 blah. And then the C-suite, oh, they need this and that, but it's very, very specifically simple.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Very simple. Right. That's how you master complexity, with simplicity. You just think about the iPhone. It is very complex, but it's very simple. And so often leaders, they get so caught up in that and they don't listen to the experts that can help them with that.
Yeah.
Right? I often look at, because I do a lot of speaking, I do a lot of workshops. And then I to a group of executives. And I gave the example of me going on my first date. And my dad called him in the kitchen. I said, hey, Dad, I need some advice. Yes, son. I said, I need to understand, how do you treat a woman? What do I need to do? Do I open the car? And I hear this laugh in the background. It's my mother. And she's laughing. And I turn around. I said, Mom, what are you laughing at? She said, I don't understand why you're asking him how to treat a woman and not asking me.
Oh, it's funny.
I'm the woman. I'm the expert.
Right.
Ask me. I can give you that internal, right, that viewpoint. And that's like the operator. Often we make decisions on what's best for the shop floor without talking to the shop floor. We don't go out and talk to the people because change stalls most often when you do it to the people.
Yeah, but
when
Billy,
you do it with the people.
Why do you think it's so? I mean, that to me is very intuitive. That sounds like it should be the model, but it's not ever, right? It's not the model ever. Why?
Often, the higher I go up, the smarter I think I am. Let me start there.
That's it.
People don't have that humility.
It's human nature. It's a human
Absolutely.
nature thing.
It's human
hey,
nature.
I'm getting paid this amount. Hey,
Human nature.
I started here. Now I'm director of operation. Whatever it is,
Right.
I know more than anybody else.
Absolute leadership humility.
Ah, okay.
I've got to walk and ask that expert and respect their place of work. Respect that they do that day in and day out. They should know better.
Right.
Right. My kids coach me on social media. Right. I don't know all the ins and outs, but my son came to me and we were talking. He goes, Dad, I know you're good at this Lean Six Sigma stuff. And now he's in the same field when he was in college. He's doing well now, but I remember him saying, Dad, no disrespect. but you're trying to give me this stuff on a cassette tape, man. You got to stream it for me. You got to stream it. The information is good. The delivery is what I'm not rolling with you
It's
with.
impressive that he knows what a cassette is.
Absolutely. If you said 8-track tape, I probably fell out of the chair, right? So, but that's the thing is, who told me? My son. And he says, Dad, you're so focused on LinkedIn, but you need to basically create a model for Instagram. Because that's that entrepreneurial audience you're looking for that you're not tapping into. Now think about what I'm saying, how he starts to say, hey, I know this world a little better than you. Instead of me saying, listen, I'm senior, I'm LinkedIn for executives. Well, what do you want? Well, you want to be impactful for all demographics.
It's hard. I mean, it is hard to develop that humility and that understanding that somebody might know something more. But Billy, like, I've spent my whole life being a conduit of information from people who might be overlooked, right? How do you institutionalize something like that? Is it a conversation that you have with somebody? Is it a tour? Is it walking the floor with somebody and going, look, this is kind of how it really works? Where does the rubber meet the road here?
So it's not just one thing. It's a collaborative group of things that's in a process.
Okay.
Right? So you have what people in our industry, the gimbal walk, go and see. So that happens every day, but you're not going to touch everybody. When we go into organizations, we implement this with our overall process. We call them the touch points, right? How do you get, when you do projects, instead of just doing Kaizen events, let's do work simplification. But basically, when I was in North America, every salaried staff member had to be a part of one project every month. You don't have to. Either you're going to sponsor it, you're going to lead it, or at some point you're going to do some research with it. You're going to support the group. What that did was morph into something that our 25 and 30-year leaders were the most productive. They didn't want nothing to do with it at first. Yeah. But here's what happened. The young lady was on our team from India. She would never talk, but she started to come to the forefront. We started getting people that were normally in the dark in the light, because we had a process that you had to present out. We didn't force you, we enabled you. And with leadership, we couldn't ask questions during the meeting. You know why? Because that project has already been vetted. If you didn't take the time to go through the actual report out, then at that point it's done, and you want to create this psychological safety.
Right.
See, leaders have to make it safe for people to come forward. They have to make it safe, right, to get that engagement. Because if they see me targeting people, they're not going to engage with me.
Right. Yeah. People want the space, the safety, the environment to be able to be creative. I talk a lot about setting up creative meetings and having that safety, and it's usually the quietest person, right, who's got the best ideas, because you finally have made a space where they feel comfortable enough to contribute.
Absolutely. And there's several different forms. The gimbal walk, the weekly Golden Broom housekeeping tour. Leaders, don't judge yourself. Have them judge each other. You just can't judge your own work area.
Right.
So when you're going to do those things, it's a peer group. It's fun. It's safe. And then when you embed the KPAs, people often say, so Billy, how did you get your plant so clean so fast? And I says, on my board, instead of doing tier huddles, they do a KPA startup meeting. Were there any unsafe conditions, red or green? Do we have any quality issues, red or green? But here's the best one. When you showed up to work, was your equipment clean, red or green? You're judging your peer before you.
Yeah.
When you left your department, was it red or green?
And nobody wants to be the red one.
Absolutely. So they start cleaning up, and they didn't realize the janitor's job got easy.
I mean, matching the action to the accountability is such a strategic genius, right? Absolutely. It is the strategic genius that we all overlook. We just all overlook it.
Absolutely. And so when we built it, my whole model was built on what I seen work over 30 years, union free, small as 54 people in the plant, to the largest plant I led had 3,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
And right over 4 shifts, both union and union free. So I've seen the full gamut. And what I realize is here's the common thread when you're a leader. People think, feel, and do. And what you do are going to influence how they think, what they feel, and what they do. It's that simple.
100%. Billy, I sounds like you might have another book in mind.
I just finished reading this good one right here. Let me grab it right quick. Hey, I'm gonna lock in here, man. I'm locking in here for now.
There we
For
go.
now.
All right, cool. Yeah, that's a good
Yes.
one.
Yes, sir. Yes, it's good points, And it's some of the things we talked about, right? When you're talking about creativity as a skill and not a talent. Right. And so, people, you should look at that. Listeners who think creative, is their strength. This book proves a step-by-step pathway to unlock it. And so when I was looking at it, I was embracing it myself, from problems to possibilities.
Yep. Yeah, that's
Right?
what it's
When
all
you talk
about.
absolutely. And what I really loved about it was the 10 superpowers. 10 superpowers, and as practical tools and processes. This is wordplay. Right? People got up in word. And when I looked at your framework, and you didn't ask me to talk about this in the interview, so those that are watching, Billy Taylor is very transparent, if you know me. And what I mean by that, I talk about the ugly baby, right? And now I don't mean the baby's ugly. I talk about, hey, Billy don't know how to do hair.
Right.
That's why the baby is pretty, right? And so your book is that practical, and it's immediately applicable to anything they're doing. And so, no, I love those things. When you talk about writing books, where I'm going with this is, I sign up for things that I can do.
Yeah.
You are a practitioner. You're not a consultant.
Right.
You and I get along because that common thread around we don't teach.
I think you have to do
What we
before
do.
you teach, man. Like, I don't think the
That's right.
quality, the depth, the understanding is going to be there unless you've walked a mile in those shoes.
100%. And one of the things, my favorite method of sustainability is, if you going into a plant and we talk about the egg, I say la dodo. Learn one, then do one, then teach one.
Yeah.
If you do that, what you're talking about is stick. I don't go into any place. You're going to learn it, then I want you to do it, and then I want to watch you teach it.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you can't explain it, you don't understand it.
100%.
Yes. And so that's the thing that I saw what you were doing, man. And I'm always happy to sit down when you and I talk. We could go on and on and on. And so, no, that's it.
Thanks, Billy. Yeah, I'm really happy to be here. I'm so happy to catch up with you. The new book is called The Solution Mindset. It is spectacular. It's got that 10 amazing superpowers. It's something that comes from a life of doing rather than a
Yes.
life of thinking about or, pretending or, it just comes from all of these mistakes that are made that eventually got to a level that the mistakes weren't made anymore. But I don't know, Billy, I think we're kind of in love with Instagram and social media and all this stuff because everything looks perfect. Everyone looks so genius on there, right? But I think for people like us who have spent so much time in the weeds and so much time in the business that when now we work on the business, we have an incredible perspective that a lot of people miss because they fast forward to the glamour or whatever of the enterprise.
Yeah, it's an insta picture of
Yeah.
what success look like. It's the insta process of how you get there, right?
No doubt.
It's not a journey, and that's what people have to look at. And you said something very powerful. Most people get so consumed with working in their business, they don't understand what it takes to work on their business. And I need them both, right? We've gained this knowledge because we grew up in the business, that we can help people work on their business
That's right. 100%.
because they normally can't see. All right. And that's that's the power of it. When I go into organizations, I can see it. I can see it, and you know what? I know what good looks like. I also know what bad looks like because I've lived it,
Yeah,
and I know
100%.
what it feels like. Yes,
Billy,
yes.
one of my favorite things about you, man, is your authenticity and the genuine approach that you bring. It's unbelievable. I
Oh,
mean, it
thank you.
is 100% BS free and 1000% authentic. There's no substitute for that type of experience, that type of passion, and that type of learning as a lifetime has taught you. You have, you know,
Yeah.
unselfishly given out. And I can't tell you enough how much I appreciate you and the work that you're doing. Just today, you gave so many great tips. If somebody just follows one or two of the tips that you mentioned, their business will be so much better. So thank you so much, man.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for being you, and thank you for all the amazing work that you're doing out there with the software, with the book, with leadership, with the keynotes. Can't wait to catch up soon.
Same here. Thank you for having me. As always, I thoroughly enjoyed it.